Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over one of the biggest and most important topics in Warzone, and that's getting wins. The reason why I call this quote unquote my guide to getting wins is because I've watched a lot of extremely high quality videos on YouTube on how to get more wins, and a lot of them boiled down to land on the train, get recons, or get a helicopter, skirt around the edges of the map, do recons. And while I do think that's great, I don't think that's applicable to the average player, and I'm not sure that that's the best advice to really help the vast majority of the player base. So that's why in this video, the main point I'm going to talk about is how to almost always make a plan to get a victory. And then after that, I'm going to have two helpful supporting tips slash hints that can help you execute this quote unquote plan to get a victory. As I mentioned in previous videos, you don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. I just appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope that the content itself genuinely helps you get better. If you have any questions, you can ask for my Discord down below in the comments, or you can just ask me right here on YouTube. But let's get into it, guys. So step one, you have to pick a good spot to land. Now, I'm going to go over later on what happens if you just came back, for example, from the gulag and you still want to get a win. I'll go over that. But for now, we're going to start off from just the opening plane. And I cannot stress enough, guys, do not land Superstore over and over. Do not land just one place because it's your favorite place to land. Have a wide variety of places to land that will be good based on where you identify the end circle to be. Every time that you open up the circle and the map in your plane before you jump, you should be able to identify kind of confidently where the game's going to end. You're not going to have a super good idea, but you should have a rough general idea, and you should be landing based off of that. I like to go for high kill games, so I land in places like Storage Town, Boneyard, Salt Mine, Military, tons of places like that where I get a lot of kills, where I can get a lot of kills in the mid game. But you don't have to land in those places. If you want to get more wins, you just want a couple more kills, land in a little more areas on the edges of the circle, a little away from combat, if you so please. Whether your main goal is to get kills or just to get wins, I would recommend having multiple places that you're very comfortable with all around the map. You want to have a place for all of the different circles you see. I'm sure as you've played Warzone, you've seen a wide variety of different circles pop up over and over and over. I'm sure you guys have seen that circle that almost always circles prison and farmland. And then there's the one up north that's above salt mine and military. And you get used to these circles. And when you can identify what you need to do to get a win in these different circles and where good places to land, you're going to start noticing your wins go up. Because automatically you can get a feel for where you're going to have to rotate in the mid game, how you're going to have to play the mid game, and where you're going to have to end up being in the late game. And now, let's move on to that part that I just mentioned, the mid game. The way I play the mid game is a high focus on kills and pushing people into about the end of the third, fourth circle until there are about 30, 25 people alive. In this section, I do a lot of contracts and I try and get a lot of money for UAVs to push people who may not have Ghost yet or may not have their loadouts. And this is where I rack up the vast majority of my kills because I like to get 10 to 20 to 30 kills and a win. But a lot of people, they don't necessarily like to do that. They don't like to be that aggressive. They don't want to push things. And so what I would really recommend doing is to do a hybrid of the recon strategy. And by that, I mean, I would focus on doing recons when you feel safe and when they feel like a good time to do it. But I would also focus scavengers and other contracts like that. The main reason I really recommend scavengers is because if you guys can get satchels on every squad member, that is huge. And if you can get money from doing these, you can start getting self-revives, armor boxes. The other thing is with recons is they obviously give you huge intel. The more recons you can do, obviously the better. And so if you aren't too keen on getting a lot of kills and you just really want the wins, I would figure out how to safely get as many recons as you can. But I wouldn't try and do so many that you are really pushing it and risking it, because as I found, unless you just want to really put your life on the line or you have a pretty good squad that can handle getting engaged once or twice, it's pretty rare to be able to do 5 or 6 recons throughout a whole game without someone fighting you. So the key thing here also in the mid game is you want to stray closer and closer to where you think the end game circle is going to be, but within reason. In this particular example of the game, I landed in Storage Town, and I know the game is going to end more down by train station. And so I'm identifying that because it's not even the end of the first circle, I can clearly rotate away from where the circle is going to end to get more kills because it's not going to be an issue. If, though, for example, it was the third or fourth circle, I would be making a terrible play right now. Because if it is that late into the game and you are rotating in a bad way away from the end circle in a place where you're going to have to cross multiple open areas, then it is a terrible idea. The main thing, though, is the later it gets in the mid game, the more you have to start preparing and identifying key rotation points. And this is massive, guys. You have to look at your minimap and understand areas you do not want to rotate through, but you may have to. Think of these areas like the airport, in front of Superstore, or if you're downtown. Do you really feel safe running out in the middle of airport when you know there's all those people around and that little cover? No. But there are going to be times when you're going to have to do that exact rotation if you want to get a win because you identified it. And I'm going to say, the earlier you do it in the mid game, the better. Do not wait until the late game to make these key rotations. Identify those key rotation points that you do not want to make in the late game, and then do them early in the mid game to set yourself up for success. So many people wait to the very last minute to rotate. And the later you make a rotation, the worse it's going to be for you. You're going to find yourself wondering, how did those guys get in that position and how are they able to just kill us? You're going to call them campers. You're going to feel frustrated. But in reality, they just rotated earlier. They got in a better position than you. And then they capitalized on that. And that is something I cannot stress enough. If you want to get a good win in the late game, you want to rotate decently early in the mid game because that's going to set you up for this victory and the key positioning in the late game. And so now, guys, as we transition from that mid game to the end game, I have to say this. For all of these different parts that I've covered, the early game, the mid game, and the late game, and especially here at the end game, I'm going to have a video for all three sections that's going to go way more in depth on these individual sectors. I cannot fit them all into one video, and this is just all part of a long line of videos I want to make. But let's get into this end game, guys. This is not going to be a tutorial on how to win end games, but this is going to be something on how to help you get more wins by just understanding this plan I've been mentioning. And that's to put yourself in a good position to win by understanding the center and potential rotations. And what I mean by that, potential rotations, is as the game gets later on and that circle gets smaller and smaller. I'm sure you guys have felt this and noticed this. It's kind of RNG on what side of the circle it will go to at times. You may identify that, yes, it's going to end in military, but what part of military? For example, it could look like it's going to end in that huge warehouse right in the middle, because that is what's right in the middle of that end circle. But what's going to actually happen is it's going to end only on the north side, and whoever is in that north side is going to be in such a good power position, and anyone who over rotated to that warehouse in the middle is going to find themselves getting destroyed. So many times I've seen people overestimate and ruin their whole game by risking it by going to the middle power position that doesn't even end up being the power position that they want to be in because the circle RNG didn't choose there. But there's the opposite, and where people will refuse to push into a key position because they want to hang around the edges because it makes them feel safe. And while that is a good strategy to do sometimes, and I will cover when you need to know when to hold the edges, you have to, more often than not ride the edges. And if you do ride the edges, you want to get into the white part of the circle and edges. You don't want to hold the gas part of the section pushing you in as you run into the white circle. You want to be within the white circle. The next circle, you want to be safe. That's the edge you want to hold. You don't want to hold and be pushed in by the gas. All right, guys, this video is already getting long enough. So I just want to say that the two supporting hints and tips that I could really give you and help you out is this. Rotate early almost always. Whether you have to rotate the rivers to get to TV station or to get through downtown to port and farmland or whatever, Do it early. The later you rotate, the more you're setting yourself up to be killed and have a terrible, terrible time while playing Warzone. The earlier you rotate, the better it's going to be for you and your teammates. Secondly, guys, I'm going to say this is identify and get used to identifying key rotation points, because the earlier and the better you get at those key rotation points and understanding where they're at and how to use them and how to play against them and how to rotate through them, the better you're going to be. And I mean it, guys. When you make this plan to get a victory, whether you just came back from the gulag, whether it's the beginning of the game or whatever, at all times, you got to just have a little purpose to your movements, and you have to always be thinking about the bigger picture. Keep in mind the tips to rotate early and to identify key rotation points, and I promise it's going to make this whole making a quote-unquote plan to get wins a lot easier. Start early, land in a good spot to set yourself up for easy rotations in the mid game. Keep yourself occupied in the mid game by getting kills or doing contracts, and rotate early enough so you're not struggling in the end game to get in a good power position, but don't over rotate and put yourself in a shitty position, and keep in mind all the possibilities of an end circle. So guys, this has been my video. I know it's been a long one. I appreciate anyone who's watched this far, and I hope that if you have watched this far, this video has actually genuinely helped you. That's the main purpose of me making these videos, and that's why if you do have any questions, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can ask for my Discord, and I'll give you long, lengthy responses. I'll give you short ones, whatever you prefer. I'll be glad to answer whatever questions you have. This has been Ryan. I know this is a long video, and it's only part 1. I'm not sure when the other parts will come out, but hopefully soon. Just want to thank you guys for watching. You don't have to like. You don't have to subscribe. I just appreciate every one of you for watching these videos. Have a good day. Peace.